All right, going live in three, two, one. Well, this is No Limits with Amanda. Amanda, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. It's been a crazy busy few weeks, but I'm doing really well. How about you? What's going
Oh,
on?
nothing much. I'm trying to think of anything new. I mean, we had talked before we went live that I did purchase a new car, and but other than that, nothing too much. I've been approached by some people who want to start a new. I can't divulge too much because I signed a non-disclosure, but they want to start a new cable channel of some sort, and they wanted me to give them some advice. That's about as much as I can give right now. So maybe when I get some more updates, I can discuss that a little further. But it was kind of interesting. I wish I could talk more about it because they called me up and they were like, they're getting ready to start this new channel, and I was like, it sounds interesting, and they asked me if I'd like to be involved. So other than that, I have to be very careful about what I say at this point. So
Okay, well, that's very exciting. So once you can talk about it, we'll divulge a little bit.
yeah,
Hopefully you can talk about it soon.
yeah, I will say this. They actually sent me a non-disclosure agreement. This thing was like 3 or 4 pages long, and I read through the whole thing. Of course, it's a bunch of legal stuff, and it's annoying to read through. But yeah, it was. They were dead serious about me not discussing anything. So it was pretty funny.
All right, well then we don't want to get you in trouble, so we definitely won't talk about it tonight.
Let's before we go too far, how about we go ahead and bring our question up? We were just looking at this before we went live here. What was the worst kind of pain? Was what the question we asked. I thought we got a pretty decent response there. 19, is that 1900 votes? All right, I can't read that. Sorry. Uh
Let me make it bigger. 1.1600 votes.
60 votes. Thank you. Thank you. So, what is your worst kind of pain? If you don't see your own choice, give an example. So, 67% definitely the most votes we got burning your mouth with hot liquid. Next down 16% was stubbing your toe. And we got ear infection. That's that was interesting. 7% with that one. I didn't think that would get that high. That's wild. Hit your funny bone 6% and a paper cut with 5%. Interesting. So
Mhm.
burning your mouth with hot liquid, I could see that being the probably the most common one. Um, the ear infection one, because we just threw that one on a whim because I said that was the most severe pain I remembered in my entire life. So I'm surprised that got so high. Actually surprised that got up to 7%.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So let's take a look at the responses we got here. I'll put them in the newest first. Let's see. Knee pain from sorry, can't pronounce the name. Let's see. Knee pain. Does that say knee pain? I say or knee pain, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, you got it. It's knee pain, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
knee pain. Marco Olivares.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
When you complete Grand Theft Auto San Andreas for 100% and you haven't saved the game, but your PC or console crashes when you're about 1 to 2 minutes from the save icon in your house. Oh, okay. It's a interesting kind of pain. So yeah, but basically, if you've got to the very end of the game, you want to save it and you can't save it, and yeah, the game crashes. Yeah, that could be that could be frustrating. I don't know if it's a pain though. So, uh, no, waking up in the morning. uh, oh, that's interesting. Why would that be painful?
Oh, maybe they don't maybe that person's not looking forward to doing what they have to do for the day or going to work. Maybe they don't wanna
Okay.
go.
Uh, betrayal of Ryder and Big Smoke. Okay, those are characters in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So they're in the game just to give you an idea what they're talking about. Those two characters betray the main character in the storyline. So that's
Mhm.
so they at the beginning they're basically CJ, who's the main character. He is the character that you play as in the game, and as the story progresses, you learn that the both Ryder and Big Smoke are they are not his friends. They actually betray him further about halfway through the story, and you have to go after both of them and kill them eventually. So let's see, a tooth infection, sorry, or splitting your or was that last one? Acrylic.
Acrylic.
Oh, okay, acrylic nail. Okay. I've never done the nail. Have you?
I don't think I've ever gotten to the point where it's been painful
Hmm.
with
I have you're gonna laugh at me when I say this, but I have a tooth that's rotten. It's been rotten for probably like 7 or 8 years now. And it every once in a while it flares up and it starts to hurt. And I discovered how to get rid of the pain, which works very effectively. You can just usually by either getting coconut oil and soaking your tooth in coconut oil, or using warm salt water works. And
Mm.
both get rid of the infection. I know I need to go to a dentist or an orthodontist or to have it pulled, but I just been putting it off obviously for a very long period of time. Um, and the procedure to get rid of it actually takes like about a week or two. So like if you have a severe pain, for me anyway, it doesn't go away right away. It's a very gradual process, but it does work. I was amazed how well it works too. So
Okay. Well, make sure that you take care of that because you don't want your tooth to get infected. That's very
mhm,
scary.
yeah. Have you ever had that happen?
Knock on wood, no. But my husband recently had to have his wisdom tooth pulled, and the doctor said that if he didn't get it pulled, he was gonna have a lot of problems.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Well, the tooth I have is also one of my wisdom tooth, so maybe I should go in there and to get that done. The tooth is actually it's got a hole on the side of it. I can feel it with my tongue every once in a while. So, uh,
Mm,
let's see. Stubbing your toe at a chair while you're turning hurts. That can lead to a bluish toe. Interesting.
mm.
Oh, what's that? What's that first part say? Say NGI.
Yeah, NGL, I don't know.
Okay. I see. Falling from stairs. Yeah, that can be very painful. Uh,
Mhm.
getting punched on your very getting punched on nose, very painful. Oh, on the nose, okay. I don't think I've I've never been punched, but I think I've smacked my face in the when I was younger, I might have smacked my nose, and I do remember it being kind of painful. I don't remember what it was exactly, but yeah, that can be very painful. Oh, I when I was a kid, I was riding my bike one time, and I found this. I decided to be like a stunt rider. Somebody had left a small ramp out on the sidewalk for doing bicycle tricks, and it was just after the sun had gone down, so it was dark. And I was riding my bike, and I ran up the ramp, and as my bike went over the ramp, I went headfirst over the bike and crashed headfirst into the sidewalk. And when I what happened
Oh.
I pushed my nose out of whack, so it was essentially broken, and I had this big bruise on my forehead and a scratch mark on the side of my face. So, I do remember walking home, and my sister was so scared she hid behind some furniture because she didn't know what happened to me. So, so I can laugh at it now, but at the time it was pretty. I looked pretty bad. So.
That must have been horrible pain.
Well, the thing was I was kind of out of it a little bit, so I don't really remember the pain level so much. It was more or less just I was just kind of like at a daze. That's all I can remember. I don't remember a lot of pain, but it was I do remember they had to talking about the nose, they had to reline my nose, and they put all this stuff in my nose, and it was I packed my nose full of this there was so much of it in there, it took forever for it to pull back out. So I was unconscious when they put it in there, but when they pulled it out, I was awake. It just kept on coming out and coming. I couldn't believe how much stuff was in my nose, how much they'd stuffed in there. It was like an endless stream of packing, whatever you call it, to keep my nose from swelling up, I guess. So
Mhm. Well, I'm glad you made it through that.
yeah, and it's not really pain. It's just because, like I said, I don't really remember feeling any pain. It's just I remember vaguely walking into the door, so I definitely was a little delusional there, little out of conscious there. So that's probably why I don't remember the pain very much. So
Mhm.
let's see. Abscesses can make a grown man cry or a straight shot in the nuts. They
Mm.
never feels good. I love these surveys. I love these surveys. By the way, okay. I know this is maybe I should talk about this. I was also injured where he says in the nuts. When I was 7 years old, I was running and I fell, and I fell right on my groin, and that is one of the most painful things you can experience. That is very painful. It is extremely painful. So I was like I said, I was only 7 years old. I was very tiny, very small, and I hurt. It hurts severely. And when I see people in movies where they make fun of that stuff, I'm like, I don't laugh because I know how painful that is. So, uh,
Yeah, I actually think that you told me about this a while ago.
okay, so yeah, you know about it. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's not something. Yeah, I feel sorry for anybody that has to go through that. So. Got a reply. Anything? Yes, I agree. 1%, 100%. The worst that could ever happen is sleeping on legs. Stepping on legs. I'm sorry, stepping on legs. Hmm, I guess
Stepping on a Lego.
Oh, Lego. Oh, I'm sorry, Lego. Oh, okay. I the I can imagine it's very painful. They look like they're kind of painful. Yes. I I'm trying to think. There was this person who had made these for they're made for women who have when they're walking in high heels for too long. Is these special kind of soft soled shoes that if they're walking like all night they can pack them away in their purse, and they pass they're designed so they can pass the Lego test, so that they're soft enough so that if you walk on Legos, it won't hurt your feet. So there's special kinds of feet. Like if you've been walking around all night in high heels, you can take your shoes off and put these on instead, but not have to worry about like because they're very soft. You don't have to worry about like anything really hurting your feet when you're walking in these things. So
Yeah, I've seen them. They're like fold up shoes that fit in your pocketbook, basically, for the ladies.
yeah, exactly, yeah, and I all I remember is they passed I remember I saw this was a couple years ago, but yeah, they passed the Lego test. They actually showed people walking in them and walking on Legos, and there was no pain. The women were saying, "I didn't feel a thing." So, let's see, really none of the above. For me, that's all way too light when it comes to, my pain threshold. Okay. Missing the damn missing the damn train. I think it's a Grand Theft Auto reference. Uh, let's see. Go. Was that word say? ATM?
ATM. Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, go to an ATM and receiving money, but your money can't be can't ho? Does that say ho?
Mhm.
Auto? What's that word there? Outside? I'm not sure what that
Yeah,
means.
that's what it says.
Okay. Okay. I'm making sure I'm reading it correctly. Okay. Uh, Whoops, I didn't mean to give a thumbs down. Sorry. I meant to do that. Yeah, this person's saying huh as well. So let's see. Asking me, Z Moon, have you heard about the new GTA remaster? Yeah, there's a new version of the game that's coming out like with the next couple of weeks. So yes, I have heard about it. I haven't thought about it. They want $50 for this thing. It just seems like another way to make money off it. $50 for a game that's that old. I'm not sure if I should really spend any money on it. Um, oh, kidney stones. Did we talk about this? It sounds like it's familiar. Did we mention this?
We might have.
Yeah, because I had kidney stones about a couple of years ago, and they were pretty painful. So,
Yeah, I've
um,
heard that kidney stones for a man is, like, equivalent to giving birth for
oh
a woman.
well, for me it was just painful. They it gradually worked its way through, and they passed. The weird part was when they passed through, was there was just it was just a weird sensation of something passing through. It's all of a sudden this little I felt like, whoa, what's that? And it's like, oh, look at that, it came out. And I was like happy. So it didn't hurt when it came out. It was just painful while I was waiting for it to come out. So um,
Mm.
but it was just and I had 3 of them, and the doctor told me that the chances of them coming out were, like, very minimal, like and he was telling me that he might have to take this procedure where he sticks something inside to pull them out, and I didn't like that, or he's gonna have to take some sort of a magnet to, like, vibrate them to so they break up. I I I went online, and, of course, I was desperate for anything, so I found this tea that supposedly breaks up the stones. I drank it, and, like, a day or 2 later, they came out. Um, I
Wow.
I don't know, it could be just a coincidence, but a lot of people claim that they experienced the same thing. They drank this tea and it came out pretty quickly. So, I don't know.
That's incredible. I love whenever somebody comes up with, like, a natural way to cure something. That's awesome. I'm glad that you didn't have to go through all the things that the doctor said you were going to.
Yeah, yeah. I will say though, it was at first the pain was I could feel it moving down, like it was like the lower part of my stomach. I could feel it gradually moving down and moving. I could actually feel it. It was the pain that is, and then eventually that's when everything passed through. But the I do remember that for about a week or two, I did have to lay down a lot. So just because the pain was so bad. So, but as it got closer to the end, actually the pain dissipated before they actually passed through. So um, yeah, it was a very bad experience. I never went back, so I should have had them examined to see what caused them exactly. I just assumed it was my diet and maybe a lack of calcium because that's usually what it is. That's not always the case though. So I just increased my calcium. I've never had the problem since though. So
Oh, thank goodness. Knock on wood.
Mhm. Uh, The the ligament broken by an accident. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what that says.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. How isn't a toothache on the list? Yeah, that's the worst pain. Yeah, that can be very painful. Yeah. Uh, well, that's why we put on there to put your own suggestion there. So,
Mhm.
kidney stones again, getting skinned alive. Oh boy. Yeah, your pain receptors go crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen videos of poor little animals with the animal rights people put out, which are pretty gruesome. I don't want to get into that. That's pretty nasty. So, getting hit in the groin, yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, getting run over by a damn train. And to be honest, all of them are full of, I'm sorry, all of them are painful. A small cut leads to a lot of pressure generation, which causes a lot of pain to your body. I'll go with all of these. Okay. And that's Sandeep Mohan, our regular contributor here. So, okay. That was interesting. So, well, thanks to everybody for participating. We like that. We like to see that people come in there. And do you have a question this week, Amanda, for everybody?
Yeah, I do because there's so many mandates happening. Well, I mean, not so many, but there's vaccination mandates happening now on a federal level as well as locally in New York. So, I would love to ask a question if people feel that, that they agree with mandates or if they don't agree with mandates.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. So, how would you phrase that? Just mandates and how would we say that? This might limit the number of responses because I know YouTube doesn't like to talk about certain things. So, just to give you,
Oh, okay.
it
So
may, we can
should I
try that.
try should I
No, no,
try something else?
no, 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 no. We can do it. I'm just saying that it might limit it a little bit. It's not a big deal. So we'll know by next week because what'll happen is if they limit it, what'll happen is we'll get like 100 votes instead of like 1,500 votes like we normally do. So they'll just limit the number of people that are able to see it for some reason, which is kind of annoying. I don't know how that works exactly. So, but we could why don't we do that? If we avoid certain terms like COVID, I think that might help. So I think it'll work. That might help keep it from being knocked down. So how would you phrase that exactly?
That's what I'm thinking about right now. How's a way that we could phrase it where it goes around that so that we don't get YouTube doesn't lock us down a little bit. I'm thinking, um, almost like do you think people have a right to should have a right to choose what they put in their bodies?
That's almost like the question like when people talk about and I hate to bring this up because this can be an explosive issue, abortion. Do you have a when
Yes.
very similar to that, and that can be very controversial. So, um, yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds good. How uh, uh, as far as the mandates are concerned, maybe something like that.
Or do you think like people should have freedom of choice? Or because then that also again might bring up the idea of abortion, like what you're saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, I no, as long as we leave abortion out, I think it should be fine. I'm just saying it's similar to that. So yeah, that should be fine. I know when I was working at a radio station, WWRC back in the late 90s, I was working on a show. It was the Joe Madison show, and he wasn't exactly the nicest guy, but he used to say on the air that the one way to get listeners to call in was to talk about abortion because everybody had an opinion. So if you want to get callers coming in, that was the best way to do it. So
Everybody has a right to their opinion, right? I feel like that everybody is entitled to feel the way that they feel. And
mhm,
I think that there's a way also to look at it where you could I mean, for me personally, I could see a lot of times whenever there's an issue that's being debated, I tend to be able to see both sides of it and like
right.
understand it from both sides.
Yeah, I try to do that too. I do. I really do. So, all right.
Mhm.
So did you? How would we phrase this one?
Do you think people should have a right to choose do we say to choose what they put in their body, or do you think that people should have freedom of choice?
You think people should have when it comes to the mandates? Uh,
People should have the right to choose.
yeah. Do you think people should have the right to choose? See, choose. Oops, tomatoes. When it comes to the mandates, like so they know what we're talking about.
Sure.
Okay. Comes to the vaccination mandates. Should we put that word in there?
Yeah, but then you said that we might get, like, the idea of COVID might come up, so then YouTube might block it.
Oh, they won't block it. It's just we limit the number of responses. That's all. It's all. It'll still get out there. It just won't. It had to be highly controversial for them to completely block it, and that's not controversial enough. It'll just be limited. That's all. We'll still get a response. So,
Okay.
okay, yeah, vaccination. V. Okay, you're gonna tell me on that one.
CC, 2
C.
C's.
Yeah. Okay.
INATION.
Okay. Thank you.
You got
Mandates. And is that right?
you got it.
Cool. Do you think people should have the right to choose when it comes? Okay, yeah, that's good. That should be good. Cool. Okay, so yes and no, I guess.
Yes, no, maybe I don't care,
Okay.
or I don't have an opinion.
Okay. Opinion. Okay. Uh, anything else, or does that work? Does that look good?
No, I think that's good. Because what else would you say? I don't care, but that's the same thing as not having an opinion, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, we can leave it at that. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna post it. Ready? There we go. Cool. All right, we can come back to that one. So what I hate to sound ignorant, but what is going on with this right now? So you said before we went live that there's mandates they're going on in your state. Is that correct? Correct in New York?
Yes, in New York. So I didn't know if you would be interested being that you're not in New York, and I don't know, a lot of people who are listening to us are in other countries and not in New York either. So I didn't know if people would actually be interested in hearing about this.
No.
But
Yeah, I would definitely. Because I should have been paying attention. Like I'm still in this phase where I'm like avoiding a lot of national news lately. So yeah, what's going on?
so for New York, originally, so now a few weeks ago, they put up a mandate for all teachers and anybody who's working in the schools who are exposed to children to be vaccinated. So that was a few weeks ago, and that mandate went up. And there are teachers that left their jobs, that lost their jobs. Anybody who worked in the school who chose not to be vaccinated are dealing with issues now. And now what's happening effective Monday, there's a mandate for city workers. So the cops and firefighters in New York are being mandated to have proof of at least one vaccine by tomorrow night.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Um
And
now what
if they don't have the proof, they can't they will not they cannot report to work on Monday and they won't be paid.
Wow. That's and as far as like as this, how is the reaction going right now? Are there protests or is it being taken? Is it not that bad? I mean, since I haven't been paying attention, what's the reaction right now?
So there were hundreds of protesters at Gracie Mansion today.
I'm sorry. Well, hold on. What's Gracie Mansion? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just here. Yeah, so I'm just looking it up because I want to pull it up just so you know.
Oh, okay. Did you want to bring it up on the screen? If you have it, can you do that?
Yeah. Wow, look at this. Can I pull up like a video or
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead. You should be hit the share button.
oh, I'm sorry, Gracie, and I should just explain it to you first. Gracie Mansion is the residence of the mayor. So the mayor, the New York City mayor lives at Gracie Mansion.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah, if you should see a share button on the bottom of your screen. Do you see that? It's and then what'll happen is when you hit that, I
Mhm.
will be able to be careful you don't have anything on there you don't want people to see. So
Okay. I'll put everything else down, but I don't you know what? It's not even loading. I must be having like a Wi-Fi issue. They're saying 2 hours ago, the Daily News reported that protesters were rallying at Gracie Mansion over the New York City vaccine mandate. So exactly what I said.
okay. And
Vince.
It doesn't is it like a large crowd? Is it a small crowd?
No, it looks very, very filled with a lot of people. So there were people there were wearing their FDNY engine and ladder shirts with their numbers on them. There were also, I think there were union reps there as well.
Interesting. So the
There
union were the unions, were they pro or against the vaccination?
It's interesting. Some union leaders were saying hold the line, which is what they're saying. So like don't back down. But then there are other union leaders that I believe that are saying that they're pushing for their for the for the any of their workers in the union to do what they need to do to get vaccinated. So it really depended. It depended on who they were talking, which one they were talking about that time. All right, here. So I have it. Let's
Okay.
see.
Now, as far as as far as national level, is there what was going on? You said there's also a national mandate too. That's new, right?
Yes. So can you see this picture?
Not yet. If you what'll happen is if you hit share, what'll happen is a little thing will come up on the bottom of my
Oh,
screen,
there it is.
and
Got
then
it.
oh, there you go. Cool. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Cool.
Yeah, so that's how many people were there.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. That does look like a lot. I know sometimes they can fool you by having one crowd into where the picture is, so it makes it look like a lot more than there actually is, but it does look like a lot just by that picture alone. So
Yeah, it does look like a lot. So I'm sorry, I cut you off. So you were asking about the federal mandate as well that's happening, correct?
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so as far as a federal mandate, I believe that any government workers or federal workers that work for an organization that's 100 staff members or more are going to need to be vaccinated by December 8th, I believe. As of right now, they can either be vaccinated or be tested every week.
Okay. Okay. That I did hear. I heard that was like I heard that a few weeks ago. That has not. When does that? I'm sorry. When does that go? What date was that again?
I think it's December 8th
Okay. Yeah,
or
that one
December.
was, and that was very. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off there. That was really high. That was controversial. Didn't they take that to the Supreme Court as well?
Yes. See, so
Okay.
you know a little bit more about than I do. Yes, they did take it to the Supreme Court.
Okay, and they said that was actually constitutional, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
The
it was being upheld, I believe.
oh, upheld. Okay, is that what it was? Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, that one was a little scary as far as that. But I mean, obviously that doesn't cover everybody. I guess that's the. I mean, it's in my opinion, they shouldn't be telling governments what to. The government. I'm sorry, the government should not be telling companies what to do. It's a job is a job. It's not. If you're conflating, you're putting two things together that don't really match up, in my opinion. It should be a company's responsibility to do that. It's kind of it. It's just not how it's like when they started forcing companies to give their employees insurance. It's like it's not really the company's um, responsibility to do that. You're putting responsibilities on a company that shouldn't be there, in my opinion. It just doesn't make any sense. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you. I believe that, the government was put in place as a system of checks and balances. I think that at this point, the government, for me personally, now everybody's entitled to their opinions, but I believe that the government is being given too much control.
Yeah.
I,
No.
I agree with you. I think that, these companies have the right to make the decisions for their companies.
Now, as far as this is a Biden thing, right? Biden's kind of pushing this. Is that right?
Yes.
And has his approval rating been going down or up? I hear certain people, and I don't know if they're just saying it's going down because they don't like him, but I heard it was going down. Is that correct? Have you heard anything about that?
I've heard the same thing that a lot of people are. I mean, but again, like you, I don't know if it's just that people are frustrated with him because everybody I speak to is saying to me like that, can you believe what's happening now under the Biden administration? Like the prices of gas are going through the roof, and people have a whole list, like a checklist of things that they're frustrated about when it comes to the Biden administration.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. What is the price of gas where you are?
So funny, I don't even know.
I got gas recently because we had talked about the fact that I just bought a new car, and
Mhm,
I was driving around, and I guess the price of gas is roughly around it was between $3.10 and $3.25 where everywhere I went. Honestly, that doesn't seem like it's here, that doesn't seem like that's really that high.
mhm,
Um, that seems, I mean, even I remember back in 2002, it was only like $2 a gallon. So,
mhm,
relatively speaking, I don't, but I haven't been that, and that was only within the past week. I haven't been out since for like over a week now. I've been at home all that time, all for the end. That it doesn't seem like it's that much now. Is it certain areas, or I'm just curious, or you haven't really been paying attention? You said
yeah,
so you don't.
yeah, but you know what, I just looked it up because I'm really not because I'm like you where I work, like, from home a lot, so I don't go out as much, but I just looked it up to get, a more recent value, and it says that it's $3.46 a gallon or 3.56 a gallon here in New York.
Oh, that's not really that really isn't that high. I mean, relatively speaking. I mean, when you compare it to $2, like I said, back in 2002, there was like a big price hike back then. And if you go by the value of the dollar, that's actually probably about the same, to be honest. It really isn't that much. I remember when I was a kid, the price shot up to more than $1, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, that's so much," and it stayed at $1 into the early like around 2000, 2001. And then somebody came to me one time, we were at work, we were talking, I was working at WTOP, it's a news station, and he and I were talking, we were actually realizing that $1 a gallon was actually less, technically speaking, was less than like when gas used to be like 50 cents a gallon back in the 70s and 80s, because the value of the dollar had dropped, had risen so much that $1 a gallon was not really that much. So when it jumped up to like $2 a gallon, people were like, "Oh my goodness," it really didn't go up that much based on the value of the dollar. So in my opinion, $3 and 40 cents is doesn't sound like it's that much. It really doesn't. So, uh,
Mhm. I think it's what you're saying, it's that it went up so quickly, I guess. That's why people are upset.
okay, okay. Yeah, and then there's this. Oh, this is something else I learned recently, and I haven't been paying attention. Is that they're trying to, apparently all the car manufacturers are going electric soon. It's like they're going to have all electric cars soon. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I guess everybody's just gonna be plugging in their cars.
I I
Charging 'em.
I'm personally, I'm kind of against it, but I mean, I'm getting a little older anyway. But I mean, I'm against it only because when it comes to cars, if something breaks on it, I can usually figure out what it is. At least try to, and that way, if I can't fix it, at least I know when I go to the shop, I can tell them what it is. Um, if it's an electric car, I don't, I wouldn't know anything about the how it powers up at that point. I mean, I might know something about the suspension, the body or something, but as far as the power, how it's powered, I wouldn't know anything. So for me, it'd be like, no, I'd be completely in the dark, and I wouldn't want to own a car that's like that. So, but
I could understand why there's a lot of people that may be against that.
The,
Mm,
my dad brought up the points that, like, apparently the people who like Jeeps, like to go out in the wilderness, they're against it, and my dad's point was that they're probably against it because if they're out in the middle of the wilderness and they break down, they're not gonna be able to get any, electricity to charge up their vehicles. But if they run out of gas, they can still hike and go to a gas station and get a big 5-gallon thing of gas and be on their way again. So
yeah.
that's the only, but that's a very limited number of people anyway. But he makes a good point. I mean, if your car breaks down, you run out of electricity. How are you gonna get it going again? How are they gonna figure that out? So I guess a big vehicle with a jump start. I don't know.
Wow, I didn't even think about that.
So, but anyway, getting back to the was there as far as Biden, I was going to ask you. Now you probably don't remember this, but do you because I don't think you're old enough. But do you remember anything about Jimmy Carter?
No.
Yeah, what I remember about Jimmy Carter was he was utterly despised, and he seemed like a nice guy, but he just was incompetent when he came on board. And what happened was he was so hated that the Republicans won almost everything in 1980 because he just could not handle the situation. I'm wondering if this is like another Jimmy Carter scenario, if Biden is going to be despised so much and the Republicans are going to come in and just take over everything after that. So I remember, yeah, in 1980, Reagan came in, and the Republicans lasted in the White House until for like 12 years after that. It seemed like, and it was primarily because Carter was just did such a bad job. Um, and it was he was just incompetent. He wasn't a everyone always says the same thing. He was a nice person. He had good intention, but he was just not a competent person when it came to being president. And the only reason he won was because, kind of similar to why Biden won, they didn't like, a lot of people didn't like the person who was in there before him, so they just wanted to vote the other person out. So that's why I'm wondering if this might be a Jimmy Carter scenario all over again.
Could be. It's very unfortunate because, like, that's I feel like there were so many people that weren't happy with Trump that they chose to vote for Biden, and now I feel like some people are unhappy with him now, and like what you're saying, it might be a whole Jimmy Carter situation again.
The the what I was going to what I was gonna say about Trump is that Trump did things I liked, he did things I didn't like. So I wasn't like these never Trump if never Trumper people. I was just like, I just looked at it from individual things that he did. He definitely did things I hated. He did things I liked as well. Biden, on the other hand, I don't know. I don't pick sides. I don't pick sides and just vote for one side or the other. So he's not. Biden's kind of up in the air. I would probably be on the disapproval side right now from what I'm hearing. So, I'm not hearing things that are exactly like with these mandates and everything. That's not exactly what I'm looking for. So,
Mhm. Absolutely.
but let's see. As far as the I was that was good. As far as New York thing as far as the mandate goes, I this is man, it's already gone into law, I guess. How's that work exactly? So it's definitely going to happen. There's no way out of it. Even though the people are protesting, it's basically going to go through. Is that right?
Yes, as of now, that's what it sounds like. And the city's preparing right now. They're really, I mean, I just read an article that said basically moment to moment, they're trying to figure out what to do to handle, the staffing shortages of police officers and firefighters.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
so they're kind of bracing for it right now.
that sounds like it'd be pretty scary. I mean, are you in a safe area or where you live? I assume you are. I mean, do you feel like is it going to affect where you live?
I don't hopefully not, but I don't know. They're saying right now 65% of fire department is vaccinated and 75% of the police department had at least one vaccine. So that's all they need is to have at least one vaccine by Monday. But I mean, that's still like 25% and 25% of the PD is not vaccinated then, and 35% of fire department isn't. That's a little bit scary.
Hmm.
Especially I mean, I live pretty I don't live far from the city. So, like, it's concerning because I feel like there are already places in the city that are dealing with a little bit of crime, more crime issues than they have in the past. So, I mean, I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the I think you and I were in agreement. Yeah, the government shouldn't be doing that. Uh, as far as it goes, I mean, I have I don't know. I can't think of anything else. If as far as if they feel that strongly that this is that important, because I feel like I always feel that the whole thing was just an overreaction. I'm not saying it shouldn't be taken seriously. I think I've said this before. It's definitely something to be taken seriously, but I think they just went overboard in the way they reacted to this. Because I remember when they first started, people they had hospital beds lined up like people were going to be dying like this like what was that, the Spanish flu from 100 years ago, and people were going to be keeling over and everything, and it didn't happen that way. It's bad, but not nearly that bad. And I think they're still a little overreacting to it. I don't know. So um,
Mhm.
yeah, like I said, it's obviously something to be taken seriously. I think it was just a little overboard. I mean, have we ever discussed how the fact that the Spanish flu is actually still out there? I saw a special about that could actually come back as well one day. Um,
No, I didn't know that.
from what I saw is that because there were certain people that died from the disease, they were buried at higher altitudes and very colder temperatures, that the bacteria or whatever it is, I'm not, maybe it's not bacteria, whatever the organism is. So forgive my ignorance on that. But when they buried these bodies, they were frozen. And if any of those bodies were ever exhumed, that the disease could actually still be on their dead bodies and could start transmitting again, which I found to be very interesting. Uh, that was a very deadly one. That was killing people, like a lot of people. So
Mhm. That's right. That is very interesting. I had no idea. That's a little bit, concerning.
The there's also no, this I also heard a story, and, you could this one's actually very easy to verify. There was also a pandemic that occurred in 1957 that was just as bad as this one, but we don't hear about it in history books. It's not really taught very often. It's there though, basically, the idea is that what happened during that time period is people were more of a they had just the World War II had only ended 12 years earlier. The Korean War had only ended a few years before this occurred, and so people were kind of hardened. They were more like survivalists during that time period, and so when the pandemic hit, they were like, "Well, we'll just work it out. We'll just tough it out." And when it dissipated and went away, it just became forgotten, and a lot of people died during that one as well. But it's not. Um, that one is still. I don't know if that one's still if that one's still around or not. But I just find it interesting how in 1957 a pandemic hit that was just as bad as this one, but you don't hear about it in history books. It was there though. So,
Wow, that's interesting.
so all right. Well, let's see. I guess would you like to? Originally we were going to discuss our movie, so we the our discussion for it seemed to go off into the pandemic stuff and all the things and the mandate. As far as I guess we can go into our movie, which is a little different, a little more lighthearted, I guess you could say. Well, kind of lighthearted. The movie we were going to discuss this evening is called 12:01 p.m., which came out in 1991, and it's a short movie, only about 27 minutes long. And you had never seen this before, is that correct?
Correct. I never even heard of it before.
And I'm bringing up the list of people. Is it the was the guy who plays the main character? I'm sorry, what's his name? He's been in other things. I can't remember his name now. Oh, Kurtwood Smith. Kurtwood Smith is the guy. So I'll bring this up right over here. I'm looking at IMDb while we're talking here. Okay, so this is the movie. 12:01 p.m. For those who have never seen this movie, it is. I first saw it one night when I was at home. It was brand new at the time. I was for whatever reason I had it on, but I wasn't really paying attention at the first time I saw it. And then I was towards the end of the movie. I realized that this was some sort of like science fiction thing, and what I did was I was like, "Whoa, I missed something that looked like it might be pretty interesting." So what I did was I looked up on the TV guide to see when it was gonna be on again, and then I recorded it, and I was able to watch it, fully because I wasn't paying attention the first time. And then, that's when I saw the movie how what it was about. Basically, for 1 hour, this, Kurtwood Smith, who's the guy on the screen right there. You might remember he's been in other movies, like, he's the guy on the left. He's been in, RoboCop. Also, a lot of people may recognize him from a TV show called That 70s Show, which I never saw, but I know he was in it. Um, he gets stuck in a loop where he repeats the same hour over and over and over again. And so he gets concerned. He's like, how does he get out of this? He eventually learns that there's a scientist who's determined that this is going to happen, and he goes to the scientist to say, "Hey, how can I get out of this? I don't want I don't want to continue repeating the same hour over and over and over again." And the scientist eventually, to give away the ending, says there's no way out of it. So, uh, so uh, what's his name's character? Kurtwood Smith. His character's name is Myron Castleman. So Myron Castleman basically realizes that he's above everyone else in a sense because now he's the only person that knows he's repeating this hour over and over and over again, but no one else does. So he declares himself like a god at the very end. And so as a final way to like put an end to it, he puts a gun to his head and he blows his brains out. And it turns out that didn't matter because time reset and he was back alive again, having to really repeat the same hour over and over and over. So basically, the end of the movie is he's doomed to repeat this for the rest of it forever. It'll never end. So, how did you feel about the movie?
It reminded me of the concept of, like, Groundhog's Day, where the movie keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. And I don't know, there were points where I felt really bad for him because when he's talking in the park with that woman, he seems like actually have a real connection with her. And I felt like he was, like, basically enjoying himself, but then he kept watching the clock and, like, very fearful of the fact that it was gonna end in moments, and then it ends, and then he goes and later on in the movie, he sees her again, and when he sees her again, he says, "Oh, do you remember me?" And she goes, "No." So it was, like, sad, I felt bad. There was, like, that love story going on in there, and then, I don't know, I felt bad for him. But could you imagine though what it would be like to wake up and I mean, it's not like you can wake up because it's the same hour no over and over again. Like every day of your life, it's the same thing over and over and over again. How and like you don't even die. It's never gonna end.
Right, right, and, as far as it sounds like it'd be interesting for like a short stretch, maybe just to try it out, but yeah, not to be forever and ever. I would never want to just live the rest of my life knowing I'm going to have to repeat that same hour over and over and over again. But as far I would like to it would be nice if you could control it in some way. You know, if maybe you could something happen, you're like, oh crap, I made a mistake, and now I can correct that real quickly or something. But and also, uh, if you brought up Groundhog Day, with that movie was, yeah, definitely very similar. That one came out after this one. So, when Groundhog Day came out, I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I've already seen this before." And it was like around 12:01 PM. I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." So similar story. The difference though, obviously, in that movie was that one actually eventually did come to an end. So, and the interesting thing about that one is there was a woman in the movie, a love interest, and Bill Murray was able to he was able to get her to go out with him because that one a whole day repeated over and over, not just an hour. And so he was able to go on a date with her multiple times and figure out what she liked. So much so that by the end of the whole transition or a whole period of when he was repeating the days, she actually liked him because he was able to figure out everything that she liked based on the fact that he was able to do like a trial and error with all these little dates that he had with her. Do you remember that?
Yes. And I was rooting for this guy in this short movie that we were watching. I really wanted him to be able to do the same thing. Like, I was like, "Oh, maybe" in the beginning, I was like, "Oh, maybe he has to do something to change his fate, like in Groundhog Day." But nothing changed for him. I felt so bad that he had to keep repeating this.
As far as the scientist at the end, he said, where's the scientist over here? Here he is right here. The scientist, he asked the scientist, is there any way to get out of this? And at one point, he has a conversation over the phone with him, and the scientist says something about individual thought it's almost like they cut a line into it, but they didn't really explain it. Something about individual thought or something will may have play a part in this, and that's why he's able to remember, but no one else can. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
And that was the only explanation they could give. Um, as far as the movie progresses, the constant repeating, he's for some reason he was standing in the middle of the street when it occurs, and as it goes on and on, he gets angrier and angrier and angrier. And there's one line in particular where he walks in and says, the woman that he works with, he's tired of her nagging voice. So he goes, "Why don't you shut up, you stuck up little?" And he says the B word, which was actually pretty funny. I thought it was the way he delivers the line. In fact, I liked it so much that I actually used that line in a couple of radio liners when I was working at two different radio stations. The second station I was at, they actually asked me to censor it the second time. So, but we did actually play it on the air a few times. But like we go to a commercial break and they say we'll be back in just a minute, and we play that little liner, and then we come back and then, like it would be like a 10-second liner. Um,
So
but
funny.
um, and then yeah, getting back to the woman, you see that she's actually very he gets to learn. He does gradually learn about her because he walks up to her and you can see that she's drawing a picture. And if you look at the picture, let's see if this is it right here. It turns out that she's drawing a picture of the homeless person that's asking for money. There's a scene. There's a homeless person that's every time he goes through the loop. Excuse me, sir. Can you give me some money? And she's actually a very compassionate person. She wants to help the homeless person. She's very much like she would be willing to help him in some way, but you can, and then Kurtwood Smith's character, he basically gives the homeless person some money, and then she walks up to him and says, "That was such a nice thing you did." And it seemed like they didn't have enough time to develop that. It could have been more than just the two. They could have been like a something, maybe not necessarily a romantic thing, but maybe develop into some sort of friendship he could have evolved, and somehow, to play off of that. But I mean, because of the fact that everything just repeats and resets every time, I don't know how they would work that into there. But it was definitely something you could tell that they had some sort of connection there.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well said.
And let's see, the very end, he finally gets to the yeah. Here's the part where he's laughing. He's telling them how actually I should be able to play this. Tell me if you can hear this too, okay?
I'm the only one who can change anything. The rest of you are doomed to repeat the same stupid hour over and over again, except when I interfere. Me! I'm the only one who can change anything. Myron Castle. God!
Okay, well, I will play the scene because I don't want to get any. It might be too. Yeah, it gets a little. Yeah, this is where he blows his brains out, so I don't want to play the actual scene there. But you get the idea. So, and then as soon as he does that, he zips back and just he realizes that's it. Doesn't matter. He's stuck there for the rest of his life. So, for the rest of existence.
It's crazy. Oh
No.
my goodness. You can't even, it's never gonna end.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so daunting. Oh my goodness.
No, I know this has been done, obviously, if anybody's watched any science fiction, it's been done. I don't know if it's been done before, but I do know, obviously, with Groundhog Day, it's been done, and they actually ended it. And then they actually remade this into a full length television movie that was like 2 hours long. It was also called 12:01 p.m. In that version, he's able to make it come to an end. It's played by a different set of actors. In fact, the actor that plays this character is much younger. He falls in love with a woman, I think, and at the very end, he's able to get the repeating loop to stop and it go back to normal again. So, I guess they're trying to look for that happy ending, so to speak. There's something that Quentin Tarantino once said that movies from the 70s, the main character didn't always end up in a happy situation. That they would sometimes die, and in this situation, this isn't really, he doesn't really die. He does die, but I mean, he comes back, but he's doomed to live the same thing, so to speak, over and over and over again. So this doesn't have the so-called happy ending. And what he was saying was, starting in the 80s and lasting through modern day, the main character always seems to have a more happy ending. And he doesn't like that about movies. He didn't like how they changed that. So like up through like 1980 or so, the main character did not always have a happy ending, but starting with the 1980 and newer, you would often see that the main character would often would have a happier ending, and would, whatever any benefits you could, so to speak, that would come from the storyline. Like if it was a guy, he would get the girl at the end, or whatever, and the everything would be in favor of the main character, which is a very common thing. This doesn't seem to follow that at all. This goes back to the old style movies from, like, say, prior to 1980, where the main character just is going to, is not going to live a happy ending. He's just going to have to grin and bear it, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm trying to think of movies. There's a movie. Oh, it's Easy Rider. You ever seen Easy Rider? I think it's Easy Rider.
No, but I feel like I've heard of it.
It's a very popular movie. It was like an anti-establishment movie. Basically, two hippie type people. And at the very end, they both get. I'm giving away the ending, so spoilers here. They both get blown away at the very end of the movie. So, and this was made like during about 1970 or so. There's another movie that I like called Vanishing Point, where the main character, he also dies at the very end of the movie. So, and if this follows in that same kind of line, it's like you don't have there's no happy ending for the main character. It's just a story, and it in some ways, it Quentin Tarantino is right. It's kind of annoying that all the modern movies have the main character surviving at the end, and everything gets resolved, and everyone lives happily ever after. And it would be nice to have movies like this where that that nope, that's not going to happen. I think a lot of people are conditioned to think that there should be a happy ending for the main character. What do you think?
Definitely. Especially with the way that movies are now, I feel like things tend to work out in the end.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how often have you actually seen a movie, like a recent movie, where things haven't nicely been tied up with a bow after an hour and a half or 2 hours?
Right. Right. I recently saw a movie that I saw as a kid called the Dark Crystal. Have you ever seen that one?
The Dark Crystal is one of mine and my brother's favorite movies growing up. It terrified us, though. So scary.
There's a scene. What was the two, oh, I can't remember their names. There's the male and the female little gelf. What were they called? I can't remember.
Yeah, gelflings. Aren't they called
Gelflings.
gelflings?
Yes, yes. Okay, I could remember. Thank you. And then the female one at the very end of the movie, she gets stabbed when she's trying to help them. I can't remember what were their names. Kim, or I can't remember. What were their names?
I'm looking it up for you right now. You're right, they were gelflings. And then remember what were they called? The sketchkeys or something? The bad guys were called sketchkeys.
Close. It's close. Yeah, it's something. It's very close to that. Yeah. The Skeksis. I can't even say it now.
I know, I can't either. Okay, so Jen and Kira?
Kira, yeah. Jen was the boy and Kira was the girl, right?
Yeah, because believe it or not, Jim Henson was the voice of Jen.
Okay. Let me bring that up. Yeah, so the Skeksis and the Mystics, right? Am I right on that?
Yeah, you're right. The Mystics, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Here we go. And then what I was leading up to was the fact that in that movie, I'm sorry, what was the female's name again? I forget her name now.
Kira.
Yeah, there's a scene where they're at the very end of the movie where he has to put insert the shard, is that what it was, into the Dark Crystal, and she gets stabbed by one of the Skeksis, and it's like oh, you're like, oh my goodness, it's like she dies, and here it is right here. And she when I saw it, I was like, oh wow, that was a very powerful scene. But then they bring her back, and you're like, oh, okay, so what was the whole point of getting her killed? It's like I think it would have been more powerful if she had actually stayed dead. But they wanted to make it more of a happy ending, I guess. So, I mean, from what I understand about this, you ever heard the brothers Grimm, the fairy tales?
Yes.
Where they have fairy tales they're there to scare children. That's what this is. That's what the Dark Crystal is, a movie to scare children, so to speak.
Well, it worked. It terrified me.
And it's definitely an interesting movie. I will say this about this movie. When I was a kid, I probably saw this. When I say I was a kid, I was probably like 14 when I saw this. I thought the Kira was really cute. So I was like, at the time I was like, oh, I would like to meet her and like maybe go out with her sometime. That was only 14. When I rewatched it more recently, I was like, I'm thinking to myself, what was I thinking? So
our brains are different when we're young.
Yeah. So as far as this movie, when's the last time have you seen this recently?
No.
So you saw when you were a kid then? Is that the last time you saw it? Was it when you were a kid?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. So I was curious as to how your interpretation would be as an adult versus as a kid. So
maybe I have to watch it again. I don't remember. And they're also coming out with like a new Dark Crystal movie, aren't they?
It's a TV series, actually.
Oh, a TV series. Okay.
Yeah. Let me see if we can bring that up real quick. Power of the Dark Crystal. Is that it? Oh no. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Is this it? Let me bring it up here. Power of the Dark Crystal. Not sure. That's weird. It's not listing it. But
the Age of Resistance. Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance.
Yeah, I think that's it's a prequel. It's a story it shows what happens prior to the movie. So all the Gelflings are still alive because if you remember in the movie, all the Gelflings were dead except for Kira and was it Jen? So they because the Skeksis had killed them all off because they didn't want the prophecy to be fulfilled. So in the prequel, as you call it, I haven't watched I've watched a couple of people. I've seen some reviews about it. In this prequel, the all the Gelflings are alive still, and it's the events that led up to them being all wiped out apparently. So, but it didn't really interest me. I didn't really want to watch this, so I know it's out. I think it was like one season. So, but yeah, but this is one of those examples where where they were doing in my opinion, like Quentin Tarantino said, they were making the transition to make it more of a happy ending. So, and there's other. I'm trying to think. There's another movie or TV show where one of the main characters dies and is brought back, and it's like if they had just stayed dead, it's like it would have been more powerful. Not that I really wanted the character to die, but at the same time, it has a more powerful impact to the story if the character dies and sacrifice, because she died sacrificing herself basically to save everybody, and it's just when they brought her back, it just for me it's like, oh, okay, well that was kind of cheap, it's like it didn't, it's why did they do that? It's like I didn't want her to die, but at the same time, I thought it would have been better if it would have been more, like I said, more powerful. So
yeah, that makes sense.
let's see. The and the other thing, since we're talking about 12:01 p.m., Groundhog Day, which obviously is very similar. The person who wrote Groundhog Day said that he was trying to go through what would happen. The basic idea of the story was what would happen is if a person were to live, say, 10,000 years. And this is a way of trying to achieve that. By living 10,000 years, would the person become would they evolve to be a better person? Would they evolve? Would they remain the same? How would that affect him? And so basically in Groundhog Day, the original concept was he was supposed to live like a really ridiculously long period of time, like 10,000 years before the loop stopped and went back to normal. So, and it was to show how a single person would go through a transition of different things. And in that movie, he does go through, in that one, he actually dies as well. Like Bill Murray's character, he drives a vehicle off a cliff, and he has which is like a funny segment where like the gopher is driving. I don't remember exactly, but like the gopher is driving or something. I don't remember, but he drives off a cliff and he gets killed, but he comes back the next morning. So, but yeah, this was like getting back to 12:01. This one is I don't know if there's any other science fiction stories that have done this before, but I've seen this in Star Trek. They've done it in Star Trek. Definitely, the Groundhog Day, the remake of this movie. There's another show called Stargate where they did the same thing. They had the same concept. So it's been repeated over and over and over again. I think this is one of the earliest versions, and it has that kind of like they didn't know, almost like they didn't really have an ending for it. It kind of like leaves you wondering what's going to happen. It's just because it is left open-ended, so to speak.
Yes. I feel like that's what I feel like too. It's like almost frustrating because you don't like, this is it. So then it's almost like what happens, but what happens? Like there's no closure to this. It's
Right.
going to continue. He's going to continue looping forever, for eternity, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say you can find this on YouTube. There's a couple of channels this is on. Not this channel that we're looking at right now, but on another channel, the person who supposedly wrote the story left a comment in the video's comment section saying, "Hey, I'm glad to see that my movie was uploaded to YouTube," which is kind of funny because usually people don't want their movies uploaded without their permission, but he was actually happy about it. I guess because you can't find this anywhere. So, I looked around. It's very hard to find. So it's interesting that it's actually on YouTube. It looks like an old VHS copy because it's kind of fuzzy. That's not bad. It's whoops, but it's also not perfect either. So, um, this is the effect. So, all right. So overall, how would you rate this movie?
I don't know. I guess I would give it like, I mean, it's good. It's just frustrating. I guess I would say an 8.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good. Okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll go with 8 as well. Yeah. I like the story. It's just it definitely at the end I'm feeling like there could have been something else to add it to the end of it, but other than that, it was a pretty good movie. So,
Mhm.
I do like how it shows like the scenes with between him and the woman. If they could have expanded on that, maybe they wanted to, but it was just too short. But the woman in the park, I think there could have been something more there. And neither like it didn't have to be romantic, but it could have been a friendship of some sort because they were definitely showing that they liked each other in some way. So that would have been interesting to see where that developed and where that went. But they kind of like it just never went anywhere. So and there was the scene with the homeless person, but that didn't really seem that the fact that he not the homeless person himself, but the fact that he Myron here, he actually was, he cared for the guy, and they were trying to draw a correlation with the fact that the homeless person is suffering, and it was basically saying that he's suffering as well by going through this time loop. So he was, don't you people, like he got angry at the people for mocking the homeless person, and then he said something like, don't you know what it's like to be something. It was basically drawing a correlation between his reality and the homeless person's reality. So they were trying to draw a correlation there. So it wasn't that big, but it was something that was interesting. There could have been some better development in some of the areas that could have been explored, but I just don't know how they would do that exactly with such a short period, with such a short piece there. So
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. He said, "Don't you know what it's like to be alone or lonely?" I think it was.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because yeah, that was perfect. It was done very well. Thanks. I couldn't remember the exact wording there. So
Mhm.
okay. Well, I would recommend this for people. And obviously, most people are going to say, oh, I've seen this before. It's been done before. But like I said, I think this is one of the earliest versions of this kind of story being told. So I could be wrong. Maybe there's a Twilight Zone episode that's out there. I'm trying to think. Maybe a Star Trek episode or something that covered this. So I know I said Star Trek covered it, but it was a later episode of Star Trek that came out after this one that I saw it on. So maybe it's an earlier one from like the 1960s that also did that I don't know of, but it's definitely not original. But I do think it's one of the first times this was ever done or ever thought about. So it really, because of that, it really stands out for me. A lot of people from nowadays are definitely going to say, it's been done so many times that they might think, oh, this is old now. But when you think about the fact that there wasn't very many science fiction stories doing this, makes it more unique when you realize when it came out how unique it actually was when it came out. That's what I'm getting to. So
Yeah, that's a really, really great point because I didn't even think about it in that way.
yeah.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Well, let's go back and take a look at our poll. See what we got here. Got a nice response here so far. And overwhelmingly, wow, 70 votes so far. Do you think people should have the right to choose when it comes to the vaccination mandates? Wow, 80%. They're on our side. So 80%. Sandeep Mohan, our regular contributor, says, yes, of course. It's their right. And Marco, is that Marco? That's the same one before. It's communism. Communism. Oh, so I did go through the percentages. 80% with yes, 10% tie with no, and I don't have an opinion. So interesting. All right.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate you taking part in the poll. Did you have anything before we wrapped everything? Do you have anything else to say before we wrap it up?
No, just thank you everybody for having an opinion and for sharing it with us. I'm
Cool.
excited. I'm excited to hear more responses and to see what everybody has to say.
Yeah, I'm curious too. Especially when these mandates start to actually go into effect. I think based on the fact we got 70 votes, I don't think that YouTube is going to restrict this one as much. So usually by the end of the first hour, if we get like 100 votes, that usually means it's going to go up. So we'll see. Next week when we do it again, we'll see if it goes up. So we'll see what happens there.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye everybody.